Davante Adams is now a Las Vegas Raider. How does that impact his dynasty value? And what in the world is going on in Green Bay? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, everybody. I am Kate Magdziuk. You could follow me on Twitter at FFBallBlast. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mosher. You could follow him on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Be sure to check out the show on YouTube. Give the show a follow on Twitter at Locked On Dynasty. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode while we help you build the ultimate Dynasty roster. Marcus, we got some big news last night. Some big news that just shook out like a earthquake.
Yeah,
all of the fantasy feelings.
It's incredible. I didn't think Ray McLeod was going to have that much impact on the fantasy Twitter world, but hey, here we are.
Oh yeah, good for Ray, man.
Yeah, good for Ray.
McLeod
2 years, up to 10 million. That's good for Ray. No, Davante Adams traded to the Raiders. I was actually, Kate, outside raking leaves. Like, it was nice enough to rake leaves that I didn't get to rake in the fall. And somebody texted me and said, Raiders. I'm like, huh? What? So I run to my computer and it's like, oh, they just set the world on fire. So, all right. Let's talk about this trade. Obviously, the Raiders give up picks, I believe, 22 and 53 for Davante Adams. Adams is paired with his old teammate, Derek Carr. Please unblock me on Twitter, Derek Carr. That would be very nice. What does this mean for Davante Adams' fantasy value, dynasty value? So going into the week, Davante Adams was wide receiver 8 on Dynasty League football. Does this move hurt him a lot? Is it kind of net neutral? I can't imagine it helps him, right?
I think this is a pretty neutral move. Like, I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm not gonna say this improves his stock by any means. It's a pretty lateral move, I think, for Davante Adams in terms of his target share. He finally becomes like the first true wide receiver 1 that the Raiders have had since Amari Cooper. Mm-hmm. I think that they're going to have a really nice skill set or skill group there for Derek Carr. But I mean, does this change anything for you for Davante Adams? I don't think so.
I think it does a little bit, Kate, just because I think Adams is still going to get his stats. Like, he's still going to be the guy that Derek Carr targets the most, but they just have more weapons in Las Vegas than what Green Bay has. And there's guys that are established and have good connections with Carr. Like, Darren Waller is a legitimate top 3 or 4 tight end in the NFL. Hunter Renfrow might be the best slot receiver in the league. And they've got a running attack, which I know Green Bay did as well. But I just don't see Adams consistently putting up 1,400 yards, 1,500 yards, and 15 touchdowns. Like, he's still going to be a really good receiver. I just don't think his ceiling is that high in Las Vegas.
But let's not forget, Carr and Adams did play together in college at Fresno State, and they had a pretty stellar connection there. So you could really call maybe Davante Adams the OG of receiving connections with Derek Carr.
It's more the touchdowns that I'm worried about, though. It's more the touchdowns, right? Because Davante Adams has scored 1 million touchdowns, 69 touchdowns since 2016 for them. I just get the sense when they get in the red zone, Adams is still going to get his, but they have other options. And Carr likes to distribute the ball. Like, he's going to throw 4 or 5 touchdowns every year to Foster Moreau or the fullback coming out of the backfield. I'm not trying to say that Derek Carr is going to be bad for Davante Adams. It's just the Raiders have more weapons, and it's a Josh McDaniels offense that likes to spread the ball around. I just don't see him having the ceiling that we saw the last couple of years. That's all.
Does age factor into this situation at all? Are we thinking about the age of Davante Adams? He's going into his age 29 season. Does that matter at all for you in terms of assessing his dynasty value right now?
I mean, a little bit, not too much, because I think Adams's game is going to age well. He's a route runner. He gets open. He doesn't win with incredible athleticism, right? He's in the right spot and he doesn't drop balls. So yeah, I still think we can get some wide receiver one production for the next 2 or 3 years, and getting a good quarterback like Derek Carr. I know Michelle will disagree with that, but a good quarterback like Derek Carr is a nice thing for Adams.
I mean, Derek Carr can definitely deliver the football, but 15 wide receivers since 2010 to have averaged at least 15 fantasy points per game at the age of 29 or later.
Yeah.
Just 15. Yeah. And I think that Davante Adams can definitely overcome that. Let's talk about what this means for Derek Carr, because I think that is probably the more interesting discussion that we can have here. Derek Carr finishes the QB 12 this year. Didn't really light things up necessarily. The ceiling didn't feel super high, but he was a pretty safe fantasy asset across the board. Finished as a QB2 or better in almost all of his games last season. What does this move, if any direction, how does this move the needle for Derek Carr in fantasy?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot because we saw last year, Kate, like when he had Henry Ruggs, Derek Carr was averaging 325 passing yards per game. 325, and that's with Hunter Renfrow, Henry Ruggs, and a banged up Darren Waller. Like, it wasn't like he had a great receiving core and he was still putting up numbers. Is he going to be able to average that for the entire course of a season and throw for 5,500 yards? No. But could he have 4,700 yards, 4,800 yards, and 30 touchdowns? I think so. The problem still comes back to he doesn't give you anything as a rusher, so his ceiling is a little bit higher. And again, they want to be a balanced offense that runs the ball, plays ball control. I see him as a borderline QB1, but you could certainly do a lot worse.
All right, that's fair. And I want to close out the Raiders side of this thing.
By the way, he's QB 21 in Dynasty right now. That feels low.
That feels low, but I do think that we are going to see some movement here in the needle in terms of the perceived dynasty value of Derek Carr, rightfully so. But I'm concerned about how much that needle will move.
Let's do a little exercise. Let's just go a couple guys that are around the same area as him. Baker Mayfield.
Ooh, Derek Carr.
Yeah, I think so as well. All right, Ryan Tannehill.
Derek Carr. That's surprising for me.
Yeah, I agree. Kirk Cousins. I could go either way on that one. I think
they're pretty similar in terms of their game, where their fantasy production comes from, their arm, not their legs.
Yeah. Tua.
I'll take Tua there.
See, I think I would take Derek Carr because I think there's a 20% chance that this is Tua's last year as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think there's a real chance he bottoms out. Like, if we get halfway through the season and Mike McDaniel,
don't you Josh Rosen him?
I mean, or Sam Darnold. Like, it's very possible that
you cannot liken Tua to Sam Darnold.
Trubisky.
Oh my God. Okay, that's another podcast. That's another show, guys. That's another show.
So we're still thinking of him as somewhere between quarterback 15 and quarterback 18, which means he's a value right now. And if you can get him at that price, people still valuing him as QB 21. It's about. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
No, that's okay. I want to talk about Darren Waller because I think he's probably the biggest narrative that we need to pull out from this entire trade situation. Obviously, I mean, Darren Waller came on so strong and he's effectively been working as the team's wide receiver one. Earned a nice contract to complement all of that hard work he's doing. But him and Derek Carr have had a really stellar connection. He's had in the last 3 seasons, 2 seasons of 1,100 yards or more. I mean, this is like he's the biggest loser of this entire trade for me. Are you concerned about Darren Waller?
See, I feel like of this trade, he's the biggest winner because I
Ooh.
think he's the guy that's going to benefit the most from having cornerbacks and defensive attention on Davante Adams. Renfro, he's just not going to get the volume that he did last year because he became the de facto number one receiver with Waller hurt and with Henry Ruggs gone. I think Waller is still an absolutely incredible player. And if he's healthy and he's drawing safeties and he's not getting double teamed, he is going to put up monster numbers because when he's healthy, he is impossible to cover one-on-one. And Derek Carr absolutely loves him. I think, man, Kate, I really don't think like 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns is out of the realm of possibilities for him at all. And he's only Dynasty tight end 6 right now. TJ Hawkinson passed him recently, and I don't get it. Waller's just a better player.
I mean, I think probably the thing with TJ Hawkinson, it comes down to maybe age and it, the thought that there might be more long-term opportunity there. But Darren Waller has definitely been the one that produced here. Darren Waller, when looking at his splits, I wanted to see how he did when he received a higher target share versus when he did not. Dating back to the 2018 season, he's had 35 games where he's had at least 6 or more targets, averaged nearly 17 PPR points per game in that time, which is incredible. In the 11 games that he didn't see at least 6 targets, 6.4 fantasy points. It feels like the ceiling, or it feels like the floor for that is low. And I think 6 targets per game could be a relatively, reasonable projection for him.
I disagree with you. That's all. I think Waller's locked into 8 to 9 targets at least a game, just because he's such a big part of their offense.
But you mentioned Derek Carr loves to spread the ball around. Like as much as he loves Darren Waller, he also I think that's what part of what makes Derek Carr successful is his willingness to spread the ball around. You still have Bryan Edwards, who hasn't been a factor, but he's going to get a little bit of his. Hunter Renfrow is absolutely going to get his. Davante Adams is going to get his. Derek Carr ranked, I believe, 5th in the league in pass attempts, which is fantastic, but do we really think that goes up? I don't know.
I don't know if it goes up, but from 2019 to 2021, basically whenever Darren Waller's been the starting tight end for the Raiders, he's averaged 8.5 targets a game.
Because there's no wide receiver.
And I don't disagree necessarily. I just don't think his targets are going to be the ones that Adams are going to steal. I think it's going to be more of Renfrow, if I had to guess. I think Renfrow is going to go back to a more reduced role of, we're still going to use you as a slot receiver on 3rd down to convert 3rd and 4, but we're not throwing the ball to you on 1st down. We're not throwing you screens just because we have nobody else to throw the ball to.
I definitely agree. Renfrow theoretically is taking the biggest hit here, but I don't think his dynasty value was one anybody would argue is that particularly high. I just think I don't know.
All right. We'll see.
Concerned.
We might have to make a little bit of a wager on Darren Waller this year. I'll try to come up with something because I'm convinced he's going to be back inside the top 3 or 4 dynasty tight ends pretty quickly. All right. Let's take a break so I can tell you guys about BetOnline. It's that time of year again as college basketball season is finally upon us. I bet on St. Peter's yesterday, which is really, really nice. It was fun. From all of the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the #1 source for all of your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information needs, including live betting in your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Kate, we should talk about the Packers side of things now that Davante Adams is gone. Aaron Rodgers continues this cleanse of getting rid of everybody in his life that he can rely on. So what do you think about the Packers now with no Davante Adams? How much does that hurt Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, it hurts. And you just keep thinking here, they can't be done, right? Like this can't be the end of the road in their search to getting a wide receiver one. Alan Lazard is not their wide receiver one. You know, they brought Aaron Rodgers back to like run it back to the Super Bowl, get one more shot or hopefully a couple of shots at winning that Lombardi trophy. And now he has nobody to throw to. Like, is
they're going to do
Aaron
something,
Jones
right?
the full-time wide receiver at this point?
Kind of funny. My guess is they'll probably bring back Marquez Valdes-Scantling. They'll bring back Alan Lazard.
Ooh.
They have 2 first-round picks now, picks 22 and 28. One of
But you're
those will be
still
a
rolling
receiver.
the dice on a rookie.
Right.
Like
Right.
you don't.
One of those will
you
be a
can use
receiver.
both of them. One of those will be a receiver, presumably, but I'm not going to trust them to that with their history in recent years. But even if you utilize one of those, like you don't have a Jamar Chase in the class. You don't have a complete package pro-ready wide receiver, I don't think, in this class. So, like, how do these picks help you get closer to a Super Bowl? I don't know. But I feel like they've lost all of their leverage in negotiations at this point because everybody's looking at this team thinking, you know, maybe all of these free agent wide receivers remaining on the market are thinking, well, you got to pay me because there's literally nobody left. Like,
So
what are you guys going to do?
Let's run through some options. So first of all, in the draft, I think like Chris Olave from Ohio State would be my favorite fit there. We'll see. We have plenty of time to talk about options for them in the draft, but some free agent guys. You just tell me yes or no. Odell Beckham.
Yes, but not going to be ready for the season.
Okay. They did have some interest in Odell last year. Oh, yeah. They also have Randall Cobb, by the way, on a reduced contract. Robert Woods is somebody that's been mentioned. Do you think they could trade for Robert Woods? Is that interesting to you?
Definitely interesting to me. It depends on how his recovery's gone. I feel like I haven't heard a ton about his rehab process and how he's looking necessarily, but he's far out from the ACL. So I definitely think that could be a good fit. And it could be one of these vets that Aaron Rodgers just trusts immediately out of the gate.
Yeah, and he'll be 30, but he's very Davante Adams like, where I think his game is going to age well. Let's just go through some other guys. Jarvis Landry.
I would like that. I think he'd be a great possession wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, yes.
Will Fuller.
I mean, the thing is, any of these guys would be a good fit, but I don't think Will Fuller is reliable enough for a guy like Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going to break some news for you on this podcast, Kate. I'm not really reporting. I'm just telling you. Will Fuller's going to Atlanta. Just
okay.
It hasn't been announced yet or anything, but that's where he's going to end up. Just
per source.
Yeah. Well, because
you heard it here first.
I think his quarterback's going there. So let's keep going. T.Y. Hilton.
Sure.
AJ Green.
I could see that. But like, is it just going to be Aaron Rodgers and the oldest wide receiver core that's ever existed in the history of NFL? Like, I just don't. I don't understand.
Cole Beasley?
I don't. Sure, if we want to keep adding to the oldest wide receiver core of all time, it's just such a weird move. I'm so flabbergasted. I don't understand. But the really interesting part to me out of this whole situation, like, outside of who would be a great fit in Green Bay, like we can speculate all day long. We don't have that news, but we do know that Aaron Rodgers is not going to have Davante Adams. What does this do for his fantasy value?
I don't think it hurts it a ton. I don't. Just because I still think the Packers are going to have to throw the ball a lot. Rodgers came back to, I think, try to win another MVP, his third in a row, which would tie Brett Favre. I still think Rodgers is going to be really good. I don't think it hurts him a ton. Now, the question I
And
have
what
is,
are they going to do to help him get to MVP? Because, as a quarterback, you have to have players to throw to. I'm like completely stunned. Aaron Rodgers' odds for MVP haven't moved since Davante Adams was traded.
My guess is that sports books believe another move is coming, whether that's going out and trading for Brandon Cooks or whether that's signing Odell and drafting a receiver at 22. I think something like that is coming. It's just, who is it? We don't know yet. Let me ask you this question. What player on the Packers benefits the most from Davante Adams leaving?
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that was my initial thought as well, right? Just because he's going to probably get more touches. They might try to transition more to a ball control style of offense, maybe, and use the running backs more. But I could see Aaron Jones catching 65 passes this year, no problem at all.
Yeah, very much so. Aaron Jones, we know how capable he is as a receiver. We know he has chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. We know Aaron Rodgers very much trusts Aaron Jones. I think he's hands down the biggest beneficiary. And I mean, maybe sort of by proxy, AJ Dillon as well, because you do have Aaron Jones. If we're going to project him to get more receiving work, that might just sort of cement AJ Dillon really in as the first and second down back. Cause it felt like despite AJ Dillon's increased usage, it still felt like at any moment Aaron Jones might get those touches and maybe this will solidify things for AJ Dillon.
Aaron Jones had 52 receptions last year. I would be shocked if that number doesn't go up. I would be absolutely shocked. He's currently running back 17 right now on Dynasty League football. Feels a little low.
Crazy.
Feels low, right?
It feels very low. And I'm kind of confused by the valuation here. Like in the most recent batch of Dynasty ADP, he was being drafted this is probably the lowest his ADP has been for several years. He's being drafted behind Josh Jacobs. Like, what? That is absolutely puzzling to me.
This is in fact the lowest his ADP has been since it looks like October of 2018. So you got to go all the way back to when he wasn't even a starter, or at least a full-time starter, for Aaron Jones's value to fall this far. It's going to be a wild offseason in Green Bay. Something else is going to happen. They're going to have to probably bring back Robert Tonyan, I would think. I've also heard some rumors. Maybe Austin Hooper is going to be an option there. Maybe Jordan Love can get some shots at receiver, because who else knows what they're going to do? That's all right, let's take one more break to tell you guys about Built Bar. This time of year, everybody has already given up on their New Year's resolutions, but not us. We are sticking to ours to eat right, thanks to Built Bar. And that's because they're the absolute best tasting protein bar on the market right now. They only contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but 17 grams of protein. Compare that to your average candy bar that has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Plus, they have so many great flavors, including mint brownie, coconut almond. And the new flavor this month is white chocolate cookies and cream. Go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, Kate, we had a bunch of other news happen yesterday that I kind of already forgot about. We're going to buzz through a couple of these really quickly. The first one is Allen Robinson signed with the Rams. Yes, I know that happened yesterday, but it seems like we haven't even got a chance to talk about it yet. Allen Robinson to the Rams, and they also want to re-sign Odell Beckham. They have Cooper Kupp, who led the league in receiving yards. They have Van Jefferson. And, by the way, they also drafted Tutu Atwell in the second round last year. So what are the Rams doing with all these receivers? Yeah, what are the Rams doing, and why Allen Robinson there?
They're hoarding. They're like the guy in your dynasty league or girl who drafts literally all of the quarterbacks and hoards them and holds them hostage until they can leverage them in a trade. Robert Woods, I'm presuming he's out via trade. I think this is a great move for the team. I think Allen Robinson makes this a better team. I think Allen Robinson makes the floor much safer for Matthew Stafford. That's the biggest takeaway for me, is that Matthew Stafford is a winner in this trade. I'm not so much concerned about Cooper Kupp. I do think that Allen Robinson can't have fantasy value, especially for where he's being drafted right now. His ADP has plummeted.
Yeah. You look at Dynasty League football, it's completely fallen off. So just a little bit ago, July 2020, not that long ago, he was he was the number 32 pick in Dynasty League startups. Now he's all the way down to number 90. He is currently wide receiver 42, I believe. Yeah, wide receiver 42. Guys ahead of him, Rondale Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hunter Renfrow. Is that too
okay? You leave
low?
Juju Smith-Schuster out of this, man.
Is that too low for Allen Robinson?
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
I think the one caveat people are probably going to point to is the fact that Allen Robinson is probably not bound for all of the volume that he's seen in years past. And I think a lot of that volume made him, a viable fantasy option when he had a bad quarterback. But he's got the best quarterback that he's had in his career so far. I think maybe trade some of that volume for efficiency.
Exactly.
And Allen Robinson, I think, is pretty much locked and loaded as a wide receiver too, and the coming season.
I just want people to remember this year was rough, right? I don't think he was ever fully healthy. They had a disastrous quarterback situation, but with Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky, your Mitchell Trubisky, Kate, he had 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns. Like, he was good. And yes, he's not going to get that same volume, and that's okay because he doesn't need it. He, like we saw with Odell last year, like he can be a low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 with 6 or 7 targets a game. It's okay. I'm buying Allen Robinson.
I love it. Let's do it. I'm all in.
Do you know who I'm not all in on, Kate? Baker Mayfield, and neither are the Browns apparently, because they were searching for Deshaun Watson or an adult in the room, is what the report was. They missed out on Watson. Mayfield requested a trade, and the Browns said no. So what in the world do we do with Mayfield? Do we think he's the starting quarterback for Cleveland next year?
No, it seems like Baker Mayfield is out. He said, "You don't want me? Fine. I won't be here." And good for Baker Mayfield for taking a stand here, because, I just don't know what the Browns are doing here. There was a tweet out there that I think it was Nate Hamilton said, "I've informed my wife that I'm going to be seeking other options. And she requested to leave me, and I've denied her request to leave me." That's exactly what this feels like.
Fantasy Football Expo, Nate Hamilton, by the way.
Yes, it's just absolutely puzzling to see what they're doing with Baker Mayfield. But I think the good thing for Baker Mayfield is that there are still teams in search of a quarterback. Now, what does this mean for fantasy football? Probably not a lot, because we haven't seen Baker Mayfield manage or become fantasy relevant. And that's not to say I like Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. I would like him, if I could place him in for the Steelers. Yeah, absolutely. But he was only a quarterback 1 in the 2020 season. 31% of his times, or 31% of his games, he's a super flex asset, and not much more than that in fantasy.
All right. And I agree with you. He's not a quarterback 1. He's a fringe quarterback 2, right? My question for you is there a situation out there where he could go and he could play and he wouldn't be a net negative for the passing weapons on an offense? Like if he goes to the Colts, do we look at that as a downgrade for Michael Pittman, or is it, just very similar to what we saw with Carson Wentz last year?
No, I wouldn't view him as a downgrade for Michael Pittman. Even thinking about him and another team who's presumably in need of a quarterback, the Houston Texans. Like, let's say they acquired Baker Mayfield and they held on to Brandon Cooks. I'd feel pretty good about Brandon Cooks. I think Baker Mayfield is a guy that does his best work when he's spreading the ball around, but none of those guys, I think, command enough targets that they would take a significant hit from the presence of Baker Mayfield. Yeah. I still think he's going to find a starting role somewhere, but
if you had to guess, where would you say? I think I know where I'd like him to go, but
if I had my best guess, it would be with the Colts. All right, let's hear yours.
I think it's going to be Seattle. It feels like he's the type of quarterback that Pete Carroll would love, right? Just kind of fiery, tough, doesn't mind playing, in a run first offense, kind of gritty, plays with an attitude, a chip on his shoulder. I think that makes sense. We've got a lot of stuff still coming with the quarterback carousel, because if Deshaun Watson goes to Atlanta, like a lot of people are predicting, that's going to create a ripple effect with Matt Ryan. Does Matt Ryan go to Cleveland? Does he go to Indianapolis? Does he go somewhere else? A lot still coming in free agency, Kate.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have a lot to talk about, I think, on Monday. We might just have some Deshaun Watson news to share by that point.
Probably
sounds
not,
like
hopefully.
if he keeps dragging this out the way that it is, we won't. But hopefully, we will have some news and we can talk about the potential repercussions of what Deshaun Watson on the move could mean for the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL.
Absolutely. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can get us wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available every single day on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Check us out on YouTube, Locked On Dynasty. We put content up there every single week. You can follow Kate at FF Ball Blast. I'm at Marcus _Mosher, and we'll see you guys next time.